Bow. Live and in concert. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. This is a good deal. Okay. Connection to nature. I think I put something in there about knowing where you are and understanding how to work with the world you live in. I have a couple of ideas about that, a couple of suggestions, a couple of things to talk about. We'll see if anybody joins in tonight and see what they've got going on. And then we will discuss how things work. Because there's an interesting website that I use all the time called the Internet Sacred Text Archive. And it has everything, right? It has it all. And it's a wonderful source for about anything you might want to take a look at, right? All of it is it'll work properly. But it happens to have quite a bit of the Icelandic stuff in it. Also has the Vedas, the Apocrypha, Nostradamus, I Ching, the Talmud, the Book of Shadows, Mormonism, mysticism, Native American. It's got some other woo-woo nonsense that people like to consider to be legitimate. Go for it. Consider it be legitimate all you want. But when we talk about the Poetic Edda, and I discussed it last week just a little bit, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, roughly 7 tales in the Poetic Edda that discuss how to question and answer well. Hello, good evening. How to question and answer well, how to have a competition with knowledge. And invariably, all of that discussion centers around a couple of things. One is the creation of the universe, okay? And I wrote a book about that called Blind in One Eye. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to do so. It's got some interesting facts that tie in very well with some of the laws, the second law of thermodynamics. But be that as it may, there are quite a few other tie-ins that suggest that our ancestors had a more intimate knowledge, working knowledge of the world we live in than we do. We live in a world that we've done everything we can to separate ourselves from it, which is kind of sad if you think about it. I mean, I've been all over the United States and much of the Pacific. It's an amazing place. It seems like it's limitless. And around every bend, there's something more amazing. That is probably one of the biggest downfalls of undertaking any kind of serious spiritual exploration or an emotional development or mental growth. It's that you begin to understand that there is so much more to this world than we've been living in it. So one of the things that we're working on the school on my school platform on Nine Towers Commonwealth, which if you haven't joined, it's $9 a month, and if you can't invest that in yourself, we'll see. There are plenty of others. I'll tell you that, but I feel like mine's the best. We're building it together, and we're doing pretty good stuff with it. Go check it out. If you don't like it, check out. It's not a problem to me. I think it'd be wonderful to work with a bunch of people, though. I think it'd be wonderful to build a commonwealth of individuals that are dedicated to investing in themselves in order to try to become something better. And I think that's one of the problems with so much of our world today is that we all know that we have this understanding that we want to be better, but the framework and the tools that we're routinely given to operate in our day are not the ones that are necessary to build an individual into anything other than an individual that's going to perform admirably in the job that they're in. Now, there's all kinds of benefits to that. There's increases in pay, there's promotions, and you can do very well with it. I know several individuals that moved right on up through the ranks of the corporate world and have very comfortable lives at this point. They live exactly as comfortably as they want to. They travel, they have time for their kids and their family. All of those things. I know several business owners who are multimillionaires. They have the same thing. They have time for their family. They have time for their kids. They have plenty of money, the free cash flow. It feels like we all want to consider that to be our goal. We all want that freedom to be able to pay all the bills, put food on the table, and be able to engage in doing all the things that we want to do. In my 30s and 40s, I touched that for several in a couple of different ways. And each time I had to start at the bottom. But each time I had to understand where I was at to begin to move forward. And that's a real tough thing to do. And the all of the tales that all of the ancient mythologies tell the tales of how the world works and how it works for them. And those people, even with that understanding, built magnificent cities. And the world is littered with the ruins of those cities that survived, they thrived, they grew, they prospered, they become magnificent metropolises of technology and culture and learning all over the world. All of them different, all of them varied, all of them with amazing scientific understanding of how the world and the universe works. They knew the position and understanding of stars that we lost track of somehow, somewhere, somehow, some way. Probably when the church began its conquest and its conquest of pagan ideas, all of that was lost. So here we are 2,000 years later with a group of individuals that are literally chomping at the bit with this innate understanding that there is something much better. And we've identified it as having free time, having more money, and being able to spend time with our families and see the world. And yet, all of that is simply one aspect of what we can be as individuals. See, the other thing that's always talked about with regards to those things is being of service to someone else. The rights and the responsibilities of being important, the rights of being a citizen in the republic. I read this to Shanae earlier, and I'm probably going to read it again here in just a minute, but there is a powerful speech by Teddy Roosevelt called Citizenship in the Republic. And if you'll bear with me, I'm probably going to read two paragraphs of it, because I think it's very important to understand, exactly what we're facing. Because we are killing ourselves to achieve a goal that we believe is the goal, but more often than not leaves nothing more than an empty shell of an individual. I know a lot of people that, like I said, that have that money, but are miserable as hell. And that's really a sad thing. You have Dan Pena over here saying, well, if money can't buy happiness, you don't know where to shop. To a degree, he's got a point. He's one of those individuals that bought into it 110%, sacrificed everything to be a $50 billion man, to help other people become rich. He was a corporate raider is where he got his start, and he had no respect for anyone else. If they were a peon enough to draw his attention, to be lucky enough to be running a successful business, but were missing all key components of how to make it more efficient, where the money was, he would eat their lunch, and he would do it without hesitation. And he was savage and still is savage. There are two paragraphs here, because here's the thing. Sometimes we try those efforts and we lose. Sometimes we want to venture out into something more than just the workaday world that we exist in, because we want something more. And I think sometimes the freedom from the worry is the most desired thing that people have. The freedom to not have to worry about balancing this or budgeting that or putting food on the table or stability or security or all of these other things. Money is the hallmark of how to eliminate that. And yet you will still see those rich people get divorced, who, by all standards of everyone trying to get there, everything should be on easy street at that point. And yet those individuals still end up single and alone. So what are we missing here? Because in my mind, when I look at that scenario, when I look at that situation, I'm seeing something that doesn't quite add up. So what's not adding up? Is it the Commonwealth? Is it not having a strong enough community? It's something similar to a soldier that comes home. I've often said that the tale of Frey is that symbol of transition from the warrior to the husband. It's one of the stages of a man's life. It's not something we can ignore. The man must sacrifice that powerful phallic symbol of the sword that he used so effectively in war to defend his country and everything that he loved from the enemy. That has no use in the home. If you're in the home swinging a sword around, if you're in the home whipping your wife's ass, you're not much of a man, because you have failed to make the transition from warrior to husband, which is an individual that gives her, this partner that you've chosen, the freedom to become who she wants to become, to grow into something better, to express the feminine desire of who she is. That's a terrifying thought, because the reality of it is if you're not focusing on it, she might choose someone else. And there's a whole community of individuals out there that are more than willing to tell you, oh, she's not yours, it's just your turn. And then a whole other negative mindset comes in. Now we're wounded, nothing good's going to happen, blah, 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 blah. And it begins to swirl down the toilet like a magnificent turd, right? But I digress. We seem to be missing something when we're striving for all of this financial independence. We are encouraged to sacrifice those things on an altar of corporate industrialism, on the altar of money, right? Because we don't need them. If your goal is to be nothing more than wealthy, I can tell you how to do it. You quit wasting your time on relationships. You quit investing in family. You stop wasting your time playing games, and you work. And then when you're not working and you have that paycheck, you take that paycheck and you dedicate yourself. You become an absolute student of the game of how to make that money work while you're working and not working. How it's going to make you more money. That money needs to be working as hard as you do. Right? Well, how do you do that? Well, the stock market's a good place. Bonds are a good place. Buying a business is a good thing, right? Because you can only work so many hours in a day. So you take all of that family stuff and you set it aside. You commit yourself to becoming a student of the game of how the corporations work in America, and learning the tax code and learning how to do business and understanding finance. And I assure you, you will become more wealthy than you could possibly imagine. And it really doesn't matter what you want to use. I don't give a shit if it's candles, right? I know somebody right now that's all of a sudden, just out of a hobby, all of a sudden it's becoming something that's helping with the budget, that's helping money to accrue, right? There's going to be a kind of a breakover point where it becomes a whole lot of work. And then we got to figure out, all right, how do we get this to work for us? Because your money has to work as hard as you do. Right? If you're invested in a real estate investment trust that's paying 12 or 13% in a dividend every quarter, right? So you're getting 12 or 13% on your money every quarter. You're getting a dividend check. Say you own 1,000 shares and it's paying 13% every month. Every 3 months, you're getting another $130, and that's going back into that. So now it continues to grow. In short order, you have more money than you can count. Same thing. Who was it that was said? It was that guy, that enormous guy that talks, it's all self-help and shit. Save $100 a month. Save $100 a month and put that in something that pays 12, 10, 12, 13% interest. And they are out there and they are legitimate and they do work. And within 10 years, you'll have more than enough money to do what you want to. And yet we can't seem to do those simple things, even though that formula is proven to work. What are we missing? We're not missing anything. It's because we have a very strong desire to be a pack animal. Yeah, that's it, Tony Robbins. Because we want to be with other people that help us appreciate and enjoy life. So where's that balance to be found, right? Well, once you understand where you are, once you have your position fixed, as I've been discussing, then you have that opportunity to begin to make decisions. But if we don't understand where we are, who we are, and what we're going for, it's a very difficult thing to go to that point when you don't know where you're starting. And then we lose. And then we're convinced it's bullshit and it don't work. Then we got to start all fucking over. And then somebody comes along with the secret. Oh, all I got to do is think about it. Son of a bitch. How come I didn't understand that? Yeah, you do got to think about it day and night. And then you got to put in the work that goes with it. Faith without works is dead. I don't give a shit what faith you have. Faith without works is dead. Can't plain and simple. Before I get too much further in that, Here's how it works. And this was done in 1910. This is something that people don't understand. People want to be aware of. And these are the people that you see on the internet that make some brilliant, smart ass comment thinking they know something and boost their ego to become something better. Right? So I'm going to read from you Teddy Roosevelt's speech at the Sorbonne in Paris on citizenship in the Republic. Just 2 paragraphs. It's a little bit lengthy, but I think you'll get the point. Let the man of learning, the man of lettered leisure, which we all think that we fucking are because we're on the internet now, beware of that queer and cheap temptation opposed to himself and to others as a cynic. As the man who has outgrown emotions and beliefs, the man to whom good and evil are as one, the poorest way to face life is to face it with a sneer. These people are suckers. These are the people that stand with Ukraine, stand with Israel, free Palestine, free South Africa, end apartheid. Not a fucking thing you can do about it. There are much bigger forces at play. There are corporations making money on that. Remember that part where people dedicate themselves and sacrifice family and connection and everything for the sake of $1? Well, those are the people that are running that. And here we are on the internet talking about what we think we know. And there are many men who feel a kind of twisted pride in cynicism. There are many who confine themselves to criticism the way others do what they themselves dare not even attempt. I mean, you have to ask yourself, why would I ask the opinion of someone who has no understanding of what I consider to be commonplace? Well, I wouldn't. But there is no more unhealthy being, no man less worthy of respect than he who is either really holds or feigns to hold an attitude of sneering disbelief towards all that is great and lofty, whether in achievement or in that noble effort which, even if it fails, comes second to achievement. A cynical habit of thought and speech, a readiness to criticize work which the critic himself never tries to perform, an intellectual aloofness which will not accept contact with life's realities. All these are marks, not as the possessor would feign to think of superiority, but of weakness. That mark the men unfit to bear their part painfully in the stern strife of living, who seek in the affection of contempt for the achievement of others to hide from others and from themselves their own weakness. The role is easy, there is none easier, save only the role of the man who sneers alike at both criticism and performance. And here's the good part. This is the part that everybody likes to use. But now that it's been in perspective, I think we get a little bit better. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumble or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. Armchair quarterbacks every Monday at work talking about how the game was blah, 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 blah. Fuck that game. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions? Who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement? And who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. Shame on the man of cultivated taste who permits refinement to develop into fastidiousness that unfits him for the rough work of a workaday world. And among the free peoples who govern themselves, there is but a small field of usefulness open for the men of cloistered life who shrink from contact with their fellows. Liberal educators, priests, politicians, branch of the day, that man that gets up every day and gives it hell. Nor yet for those who always profess that they would like to take action, if only the conditions were not exactly what they actually are. The man who does nothing cuts the same sordid figure in the pages of history, whether he be cynic or fop or voluptuary. There is little use for those being whose tepid soul knows nothing of the great and generous emotion, of the high pride, the stern belief, the lofty enthusiasm of the men who quell the storm and ride the fucking thunder. Well for those men if they succeed, well also, though not so well if they fail, given only that they have nobly ventured and have put forth all their heart and strength. It is a war-worn Hotspur, spent with hard fighting, he of the many errors and the valiant end, over whose memory we love to linger, not over the memory of the young lord who, but for the vile guns, would have been a valiant soldier. I believe the have them all says something too. And though you may shy away from the battlefield and spears, when you're laying on your deathbed at the end of your life, you will always think about that cowardice. So when we talk about what we're trying to achieve, and we look at one thing, we need to be aware we're sacrificing all the rest. And then we're tempted to fall into that trap of, well, I'm focused on making money and you're kind of a fuckstick. I knew a man in the military. He was a West Point graduate, brilliant man, exceptional officer. His greatest fear was to be considered a family man. He hated that term. He thought that was the absolute worst thing he could ever become. That was an idea, that was a version of hell for him. He hated it. I have no idea what ever happened to him. I know he continued to move on up through the ranks till I got out. No idea where he went from there. Although he had such a unique name, I'm sure I could look it up. When we undertake into account our ideas on a position fix, what we're really doing is looking at the entirety of our being, not one aspect. If we focus on just one aspect of ourselves, we set ourselves up for failure. There's no one-legged stool that you can sit on. What are you, shitting me? Even a man with a cane has 3 limbs, right? The basic idea that we can set aside certain aspects of who and what we are to pursue success may be celebrated by some, but even those men that celebrate that have not the ability to do it. Why? Because they're successful in their own right. They're successful and comfortable where they are. There's a lot to be said for that. There's a lot to be said for that. And I myself, even though I am more than capable of it and have done it in my life, have no longer have any interest in sacrificing family or good friends, tribe, commonwealth, people that are willing to work and do the same thing, that I can share solid, good ideas with and enjoy their company. Now, if they're the kind of individuals that are watching football and talking about it on Monday, yes, I appreciate you. I like you. We're going to get along just fine. But that inner group, the Innengarth, what they call it, that inner group of individuals, those are the individuals that are talking about high-minded ideals that lend themselves to the accumulation of wealth that very few understand. It's a very hard road to travel because I see it all the time. Once you've lived life like this for a long time, you see those things happening. And it's difficult to stand back and understand, I am not the cynic. That man is in the arena he needs to be to learn about life. How do I help? Therein lies the greatest opportunity for growth that happens to show up on my door all the time. That understanding right there. Instead of voicing an opinion, which I am very prone to do, and I got to work on it all the damn time, I have to remind myself that person is in their arena and they got to figure it out. How could I help? How can I help them navigate this situation that I know is going to lead to ruin and failure? What words should I use that might provide guidance or help or understanding or support for that individual who's done everything he thought was right, everything he believed in and did it well, and still ended up losing it all? The ideas involved in the position fix are central to that very theme. The last thing I want to see happen to any of the people that help pay attention to me and work with me is to see them focused on just one thing and then lose it all. There's no benefit in life to encouraging that behavior. There's no benefit in life to supporting that. It's a very difficult thing because you have to understand that most people will see that as weakness. Most people will see that as the kind of thing that, well, they don't know what they're doing. He doesn't know what he's doing is why he's not saying anything. Oh, no. I see the entirety of the timeline you're fixing to engage on. Everything you're thinking about, I've already done and failed and tried and won and succeeded and lost and made all the mistakes. So, the foundation of wisdom in my life today is, how best do I help? That's why I built the school platform. That's why I built a school platform to share all of this knowledge. That's why I'm working on building the coaching program. That's why I'm building a Gothi program on my Patreon, to help, not to be more right. I could give a shit about being more right. I already know I am. How do I help? The chief thing that gets in my way is anger. Self-destructive anger. I get tired, I get frustrated, and I want to use it as energy, as fuel, as a resource to keep me going forward. What do you think I sacrifice in that effort? When I begin to tap into that nitrous oxide that will burn my engine out if I use it too long. My health, the opinion of all those that I've worked so very hard to help move forward, the very concept of wealth itself is lost, burn up in that hot fire of using anger to move somebody forward. Oh, it works. It works very well. But it's as acid on the ethereal qualities of a dream. That's really all we have, isn't it? A dream to begin with, an idea, a thought. Who knows where it comes from? And it's mentioned in popular culture all the time. In Star Trek, to seek out new Earths or new places and boldly go where no man, the crew, the starship going into the space, right? Star Wars, Indiana Jones, all these things, all these people working together to get something magnificent that would change the world and themselves along the way. Unfortunately, there's critics, academics with big turkey necks that sit in other people's basements and sit in their mom's basements and have opinions about, well, I don't, oh my gosh. Yeah, you see, this is the kind of difficulty every individual has in trying to justify that next step, that next action, that decision, that commitment, that idea that says, okay, maybe I do need some help. Maybe I could use a little guidance. Maybe something I'll find here is going to help me navigate this next challenge that I may not even be aware that I have. I know I can go somewhere. I know I can settle, which is what most of us do. Or I know I can go try to become bigger, faster, stronger. That difficulty in life is why people like me exist. I firmly believe it. Right? We have to be able to understand how to influence individuals into becoming the best versions of themselves they can possibly be. Not the critic. And even when we have to put our foot down and demand that it be done this way, we have to do so in a manner that inspires, that creates inspiration and not resentment. We have to understand the task is understood, supervised, and accomplished. That is the role of a leader in this world. And there are 11 principles of leadership, and all of them are important, and all of them are built around two simple things: knowing yourself and helping others. But the manner in which they're laid out are done so to help men lead men and women through the most difficult situations people can imagine. And celebrating this past Veterans Day, all of those men and women that have gone through those types of situations, even the training of which challenges the very mettle of some individuals that never make it through. My hat's off to you. Happy Veterans Day. So, take a good close look at what I just said, how it went from here to there and here to there and back and forth and this and that and a whole lot of that. and understand or try that we're all in this together. We're all in this to build something better. If you want to sacrifice all of the things to pursue one thing, go for it. I hope you enjoy a ton of success and change the world doing it. But if you want to find that happy medium that allows us to accumulate the wealth that builds families that celebrate their name for generations, you might consider understanding that I'm working on sorting those thoughts too. And I have a little bit of a head start on a lot of people. Come and join me on the school platform. Or if you need to, subscribe to the daily email. I send something out every day. And sometimes it's on time and sometimes it ain't. But I'm getting better at it. So I'll have a link tree in the bottom of this. Click on that. You can check it all out. And I look forward to seeing from you and hearing from you. Everybody have a great night.